Celtic travelled to Tynecastle on the 10th of August 1985 for the opening day of the season, more in hope than expectation that it would be the beginning of a league-winning campaign. It was now over 3 years since they had last been champions, and after Dundee United's first and so far only league championship win in 1982-83, Aberdeen had won the following 2 titles. Under the guidance of Alex Ferguson, they were the bookies' favourites to become the first team to win 3 Premier Division titles in a row. Davy Hay had finally broken his trophy duck as Celtic manager on the final day of the previous season, Davy Provan and Frank McGarvey scoring the goals in a 2-1 win over Dundee United in the 100th Scottish Cup final on the 18th of May. Despite the desperation to finally regain the league championship, Hay had not been backed in the transfer market that summer and released Frank McGarvey and John Colquhoun with no new signings coming in. Despite the availability of Tosh McKinlay, Celtic made no move for the Scotland under-21 international, and after Leeds United's Frank Gray turned down a move north, Tommy Burns was asked to turn out at left-back in the opening months of the season. 2 players whose places in the team were in doubt in the build-up to the first league match were club captain Danny McGrain, now 35 years old, and record signing Maurice Johnston, who had struggled for goals at the end of the previous season. Alan McInally had banged in the goals on the pre-season tour of Sweden, and speculation was rife that he would displace Johnston. In the event, Johnston kept his place, although he was left in no doubt more was expected of him, Hay telling Hugh Keevins in The Scotsman of the 10th of August 1985, "Johnston cannot afford a bad performance, and the team as a whole, which has not changed in personnel from the one which finished runners-up to Aberdeen last season, must show they have learned to do better more often." Celtic had shown themselves the previous season to be more than capable of matching Aberdeen on any given day, but taking care of business against the also-rans had been their downfall. There was little expectation then of a high-scoring performance against Hearts, who had finished in 7th place in 1984-85, and whose modest ambition as the season kicked off was to challenge for a European place, which at that time meant finishing 5th out of 10. On a warm, sunny afternoon at Tynecastle, Danny McGrain had to be content with a seat on the bench as Celtic lined up Bonner, Willie McStay, Burns, Aitken, McAdam, Grant, Provan, Paul McStay, Johnston, McLeod, McClare, subs, McGrain, McInally. Celtic turned in a very unconvincing performance, with only Paul McStay and Davy Provan threatening a well-organised Hearts defence. Almost inevitably, John Colquhoun was the best player in the Hearts side, up against Tommy Burns, who was struggling to adapt to playing at left-back. A sympathetic Ian Wood wrote in The Scotsman of the 12th of August 1985, "As a long-term admirer of Burns' stylish brand of creative football, I had found it difficult to envisage him as a left-back, and now that I've seen him there, it hasn't got any easier. However, these are early days, and Burns is footballer enough to adapt. The hope must be that as his confidence grows, he'll find time to move forward and display his more positive skills." Hearts went into a lead they just about deserved on the balance of play on 27 minutes, Jimmy Sanderson heading down a Brian Whittaker free kick for John Colquhoun to lash home. Time was running out for Celtic in the second half, despite having more of the ball and pressing hard for an equaliser. Ian Paul reported in the Glasgow Herald of the 12th of August 1985, "The pattern after the interval was much the same, Celtic having a lot of the ball but doing very little with it, while Hearts managed to look dangerous often. In fact, had Sandy Clark not hit the ball too straight, allowing Bonner to block his shot 10 minutes from the end, there would have been no chance of Celtic saving the day." Despite the pressure on Mo Johnston in the build-up to the match, when Hay made a change 15 minutes from time, it was Brian McClare who was withdrawn for Alan McInally, and Johnston missed a gilt-edged chance 5 minutes before the end when a Roy Aitken cross from the right found him all on his own at the back post. Instead of bringing the ball down, Johnston swung his left boot first time and shot high and wide. At that point, it looked as if Celtic were down and out. Seconds from the end, Paul McStay salvaged a point with what would turn out to be an absolutely vital goal at the season's end, described by Ian Wood and the Scotsman. Hearts were about to have an old lesson hammered home yet again. Paul McStay, despite all Celtic's travails, the most accomplished player on the field, did the hammering. Hearts, with seconds to go, retreated and conceded possession. A cross from Willie McStay was eventually breasted down by brother Paul, controlled, taken past a desperate tackle and slid home by way of Smith's right-hand post. Despite the mixture of joy and relief released by McStay's late equaliser, the match did little to instil any confidence that Celtic were ready to launch a serious championship challenge. Don Morrison wrote in the Sunday Mail of the 11th of August 1985, Celtic's claim to the prime contenders to the throne of Aberdeen looked decidedly fragile in the sunshine of Tynecastle. As fans began their journeys back west late that afternoon, it was looking as though Celtic faced a long, frustrating season.